What if I told you that you become what you think? That your thoughts are the seeds of your destiny, shaping not just your actions, but the very course of your life. This idea isn't just motivational fluff. It's a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, a timeless framework for mastering the mind and living with purpose. The Stoics believed that controlled thoughts gave actual power. You can overcome distractions, negative emotions, and current life chaos to become the person you want to be with this approach. This video explores 7 Stoic secrets that enable this change. The steps you can take now to align your thinking with your goals and values are practical, not ethereal. Will you control your thoughts and become your best self? Let's begin. Number 1. Embrace the dichotomy of control. Stoicism is based on a key idea known as the dichotomy of control, which differentiates between things that are within our power and things that are not within our control. It is not only a mental exercise to make this distinction. Rather, it is a useful instrument for navigating the difficulties of life and obtaining a state of peace. Our interior environment, including our ideas, judgments, decisions, and actions, is completely within our control all the time. Specifically, these are the areas in which we have the ability to have direct influence and responsibility. Other things, on the other hand, are essentially beyond our direct control. These include things like the weather, the acts of other people, our physical health, our reputation, our riches, and even the natural cycle of life. Enchiridion contains a profound statement made by Epictetus, which states that some things are within our power, while others are not. Objection, motivation, desire, aversion, and, to put it another way, whatever our own actions are all within our sphere of influence. Some of the things that are beyond our control are our bodies, our possessions, our reputations, our positions of authority, and, to put it another way, anything that is not our own acts. Despite its apparent simplicity, this distinction has significant repercussions for the way we spend our lives. Unlocking inner peace and liberating ourselves from unwarranted tension and irritation can be accomplished by directing our attention and energy onto the things that we have the ability to control, namely our thoughts and responses. We put ourselves in a position to experience feelings of disappointment, wrath, and resentment when we become preoccupied with things that are beyond our ability to control. Constantly responding to influences from the outside rather than actively molding our own experiences, we end up being victims of circumstance. Consider the scenario in which you become enraged by a traffic bottleneck, for instance. Although you have no control over the traffic, you do have complete control over your attitude, including levels of wrath and aggravation. When you are aware of this, you have the ability to select a different response, such as acceptance, patience, or even making use of the time to read a podcast or think about your day. This idea is crucial to the process of becoming what we believe, because it gives us the ability to construct our inner world, regardless of the events that are occurring outside of ourselves. The way in which we perceive the world around us is informed by our thoughts and judgments. Even when confronted with challenges from the outside world, we are able to develop a resilient and meaningful inner existence by cultivating virtuous thoughts, practicing reasoned judgment, and adopting wise actions. A deliberate change in focus from external events to internal responses is required in order to put the duality of control into practice. Focus on how to make effective use of the unexpected spare time, such as by reading or working, rather than getting frustrated about a trip that is delayed. Focus your attention on behaving in accordance with your own principles rather than having concerns about the opinions of other people. Rather of allowing yourself to become nervous about the future, you should concentrate on performing acts that are productive in the here and now. If your plans are altered by the weather, you should either adjust them accordingly or learn to appreciate the various forms that nature can take. Instead of focusing on the bad emotion that you're experiencing, it is better to concentrate on whether or not the criticism has any value for your own personal development. The cultivation of inner resilience and the reduction of unneeded stress can be accomplished by continual refocusing attention on the things that we have the ability to affect, namely our thoughts, judgments, and actions. We are able to gradually change our focus from the events that occur outside of ourselves to the responses that occur within ourselves by continually using the dichotomy of control. The purpose of this shift is not to repress feelings. Rather, it is to acknowledge that we have the ability to choose how we respond to specific emotions. Rather than allowing ourselves to be carried away by impetuous feelings, we have the ability to make the decision to be guided by reason and virtue. The Stoic philosophy is based on the idea that we should take responsibility for our inner reality and shape it with knowledge and intention. This is the foundation for becoming what we think. The cultivation of a sense of inner peace and calm is made possible by this practice, which enables us to construct a sturdy inner castle that is impenetrable to the storms that emerge from the outside world. Number 2, practice negative visualization. It is not the purpose of the Stoic practice of negative imagery to wallow in despair or to invite disaster into one's life. The practice, on the other hand, is a potent mental exercise that is intended to foster resiliency, gratitude, and a more distinct perspective on what is genuinely important. Rather of dwelling on future calamities, losses, or setbacks in a morbid manner, it is important to mindfully contemplate them in order to mentally and emotionally prepare ourselves for the likelihood that they will occur. Not only does this practice lead to a reduction in concern about the future, but it also leads to a deeper appreciation for the current moment, which is a paradoxical result. Seneca, in his Letters from a Stoic, expressed his support for this approach in a very eloquent manner. He suggested that we should set aside a certain number of days during which we shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to ourselves, "Is this the condition that I feared?" He recommended for temporarily experiencing a lifestyle that was less comfortable and simpler in order to reduce the anxiety that we feel about the possibility of losing our existing conveniences. When we willingly put ourselves through a certain amount of difficulty, we become desensitized to the fear of it and come to the realization that we are capable of enduring more than we may have initially believed. A more profound sense of thankfulness for the presence of anything in our lives can be developed by picturing the loss of something that we hold dear, whether it be our health, a relationship, our career, or even monetary belongings. Until we are confronted with the possibility of losing something, we frequently fail to recognize its significance. We are able to develop a greater appreciation for the transience of all things and the precarious nature of existence through the practice of negative visualization. This, in turn, encourages us to value the here and now and to refrain from becoming unduly connected to various external conditions. Our capacity to keep a happy attitude, even when faced with difficult circumstances, is strengthened by this mental preparation, Due to the fact that we've already psychologically prepared ourselves for the prospect of experiencing true suffering, we are less likely to be overcome by feelings of shock or despair when we are actually confronted with it. We are able to manage the challenge with greater serenity and resilience as a result of this mental rehearsal, which does not make the difficulty any less real than it already is. When it comes to the practical application of negative imagery, it's important to make sure that you routinely set aside time for focused thought on future losses or disasters. This can include thinking about the transience of relationships by considering the possibility of losing loved ones, which can lead to a better appreciation for the connections that are now in place. For the purpose of detaching from material attachments and concentrating on one's inner values, it also involves visualizing the loss of one's things. Taking the time to consider prospective health problems might inspire healthy behaviors and a sense of thankfulness for one's current state of health. Last but not least, picturing failures in the process of obtaining goals helps in the development of backup plans and reinforces one's resolve. Instead of giving in to fear or worry, it is important to approach these reflections with a calm and analytical perspective, concentrating on readiness and appreciation rather than giving in to dread or anxiety. The difference between negative imagery and catastrophizing is an extremely important distinction to make. In the process of catastrophizing, one may get overcome by worry and anxiety, as well as dwell on the worst conceivable scenarios. On the other hand, negative visualization is an exercise that is controlled and planned, and its purpose is to cultivate emotions of thankfulness and resilience. It is not about giving in to misfortune, but rather about preparing yourself to face it. One of the benefits of engaging in this practice is that it helps us build a more balanced and realistic perspective on life. It also helps us strengthen the connection between our ideas and our experiences, which in turn helps us cultivate inner calm regardless of the environmental conditions we are experiencing. Number 3, cultivate inner resilience. It is not that Stoicism seeks to repress feelings, rather, it seeks to prioritize rational thought in directing our actions. Stoicism places an emphasis on the significance of reason above emotion. In spite of the fact that feelings are an inherent and inevitable component of the human experience, allowing them to exert control over our reactions can result in decisions that are hasty and ultimately undesirable. Fear may keep us from seizing a wonderful opportunity, or a sudden outburst of anger may cause us to say something unpleasant that we will later come to regret. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, repeatedly stressed the importance of reason, urging himself and others to begin each day by telling yourself, "Today, I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil." This discipline of anticipating future negative was not about expecting the worst. Rather, it was about mentally preparing oneself to respond with reasoned composure rather than emotional reactivity that was taken into consideration. The basis of developing one's own inner resilience is the combination of this expectation and a dedication to reason, creating a mental fortress that enables us to weather the inevitable storms of life without being swept away by emotional turbulence is the goal of this endeavor. This does not mean that we should become heartless. Rather, it means that we should cultivate the ability to watch our feelings without passing judgment on them, acknowledge they're there, and then pick and choose how to react to them. In order to develop our personalities and become the people we wish to be, it is essential that we make the deliberate decision to put reason first. Rather than being driven by spontaneous impulses, it enables us to act with intention and purpose through the use of this ability. One must take a number of important measures in order to cultivate inner resilience. Gaining self-awareness is the first step. Learn to identify the situations or events that tend to elicit strong emotional responses from you, which are referred to as your emotional triggers. As soon as you have identified these triggers, you will be able to start anticipating them and be ready for it. Before reacting, you should become in the habit of pausing. Take some time to calm down and collect your thoughts before responding to a hard circumstance. Take a moment to breathe deeply and gather your thoughts. The pause allows for the intervention of reason, which helps to prevent impulsive reactions from occurring. Alter the way you think about bad things. When confronted with a circumstance, it is better to try to find a more objective or even positive perspective on it, rather than lingering on the negative aspects of it. In the event that someone criticizes your work, for instance, rather than becoming defensive, you should think about whether or not their critique has any merit and how you may utilize it to better. Additionally, give some thought to the Stoic concept of preferred indifference. These include factors like health, prosperity, and reputation, all of which are naturally favored but are not necessary for a life that is both virtuous and successful. It is through the realization of their indifference that we are able to feel delight when we have them and calmness when we let them go. Resilience is further strengthened by this detachment from external results, as our inner calm becomes less dependent on the conditions that are occurring outside of ourselves. We are able to develop a robust inner resilience by employing 4 strategies on a consistent basis: anticipation, pausing, reframing, and recognizing preferred indifference. This enables us to respond to the obstacles that life presents with reason, composure, and eventually a greater sense of peace of mind. One of the most important aspects of developing our personalities and becoming the kind of people we want to be is making the intelligent decision to put reason first. Number 4. Focus on virtue. The Stoics believe that virtue is the only thing that is good, and that virtue includes wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. In order to live a virtuous life, we must bring our acts into harmony with reason and nature. This is not an abstract concept. Rather, it is about making decisions in one's day-to-day life that are conscious. Seneca held the belief that virtue is nothing else than right reason, so underlining the significant part that rational thought plays in the demonstration of virtuous behavior. When we make it a priority to cultivate these virtues, we bring our thoughts and actions into alignment with a higher purpose, which ultimately results in a life that is more meaningful and satisfying. Our character is formed, and our ideas are influenced by this pursuit of virtue, which increases the likelihood that we will act in a manner that is congruent with our values, and that we will arrive at a condition of inner harmony. Having wisdom, also known as prudence, is not about amassing knowledge. Rather, it is about making efficient use of that knowledge. This entails taking into account the repercussions of one's actions before taking action, finding out different points of view, and continuously acquiring new knowledge. As an illustration, rather than reacting violently to a critical email, you should take some time to calm down, assess the message in an objective manner, and then compose a response that is very intelligent. This exemplifies the use of wisdom, which is the utilization of reason to direct your response. The concept of justice encompasses more than just legal problems. It also involves treating everyone with fairness and respect. This means that you must be honest and have integrity in both your words and acts, that you must be unbiased in your interactions, and that you must meet your duties. Take, for example, the importance of keeping your word when you make a commitment. Be sure to speak up and show support to the person you see being treated unfairly if you see it happening. In everyday life, these behaviors are the embodiment of justice. It is not fearlessness that is the essence of Stoic courage. Rather, it is the ability to behave virtuously in spite of fear or adversity. Confronting obstacles head-on, advocating for what is right, and accepting what you are unable to control are all necessary steps in this process. When you are required to provide challenging feedback at work, for instance, it is important to do so in an honest and respectful manner, even if it is uncomfortable. The fact that you have shown courage in the face of a difficult circumstance is commendable. To be temperate means to maintain equilibrium and self-control, avoiding excess in all aspects of life. This entails not overindulging in pleasures, maintaining a healthy balance between work and rest, and effectively managing one's emotions. For example, if you are tempted to go on a shopping spree and spend more money than you can afford, you should exercise self-control and put your financial well-being first. This is an example of temperance since it exhibits control over impetuous urges. The cultivation of a strong moral character is accomplished by the persistent practice of certain virtues. This, in turn, has an effect on our ideas, which in turn makes us more likely to behave in a moral manner in the future. As the Stoics recommended, this positive feedback loop helps to build our inner peace and enables us to live a life that is more meaningful and rewarding in alignment with reason and nature. When it comes to becoming what you think, this is the essence of the concept, molding your character via the actions of virtue. Number 5, practice mindfulness. Rather than getting caught up in regrets from the past or worries about the future, Stoicism encourages people to concentrate on the here and now. One way to hinder ourselves from completely engaging with the reality of the present moment is to fixate on what has already occurred or to worry about what might occur in the future. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to concentrate every minute on doing what's before you with precise and genuine seriousness. He then went on to go on to accomplish his goals. This exemplifies the Stoic principle of fully inhabiting each moment, bringing one's full attention and intention to the activity that is currently present. Mindfulness training helps us build this presence by increasing our awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, observing them without passing judgment on them, and making more deliberate decisions about how we will react to them. In order to exert control over our ideas and to mold our reality, this heightened awareness is very necessary. To cultivate a clear awareness of our inner and outside experience in the present moment is the essence of mindfulness, according to Stoicism. Mindfulness is not about emptying the mind. Focusing on your senses, sights, sounds, scents, tastes, and touch will help you become more rooted in the environment that is immediately surrounding you. Additionally, it entails watching your thoughts and feelings without passing judgment on them, so that you can just acknowledge their presence and allow them to pass. Consider the sensation of breathing, and when your mind wanders, gently bring your attention back to it. This is yet another strong method for anchoring oneself. Pay attention to the sensation of breathing. In conclusion, it's important to prevent multitasking and distractions while you are engaged in activities such as working, eating, or spending time with dear ones. Applying awareness to circumstances that occur in everyday life is what this implies practically. Instead of coming up with a response at the beginning of a conversation, you should focus on actually listening to what the other person is saying and paying attention to their words, tone, and body language. Focus on the subject at hand and steer clear of distractions while you are working. When working on larger activities, break them down into smaller pieces. Enjoy each mouthful of your meal and pay attention to the many flavors and sensations that you encounter. Be mindful of the sensations of your feet on the ground, as well as the sights and noises that are occurring around you as you are walking. Mindfulness training helps us cultivate a stronger sense of presence and awareness, which in turn allows us to have a more complete experience of life and to make decisions that are more in line with our values. By allowing us to witness our mental processes without passing judgment on them and allowing us to select how we react. This heightened awareness is vital for managing our ideas and shaping our reality. Both the Stoic path to inner calm and the process of becoming what we believe are dependent on this particular facet of the Stoic path. Number 6. Accept what you cannot change. To accept what we cannot change is a fundamental component of the Stoic philosophy. A clear-eyed assessment of the limits of our influence, distinguishing between what we control, our thoughts and actions, and what we do not control, external events, the behavior of others, the past and the future, is not the same thing as lazily accepting the situation as it is. Epictetus highlighted that although we always have the ability to select how we react to our external situations, we cannot choose the circumstances themselves. Redirecting our energies in a smart manner toward our inner world is what we mean when we say that we are accepting the unavoidable. In order to liberate ourselves from sorrow, frustration, and anxiety, we must first accept what we are unable to control. This opens the door to a place of inner calm. This acceptance is a practice that happens over and over again, and it requires a constant awareness of oneself, as well as a readiness to let go of the urge to have complete control. It implies acknowledging that there are some things that are simply beyond our control, and that attempting to fight against them will only make the situation more difficult. Accepting loss, limitations, mistakes made in the past, or the uncertainty of the future could be part of this process. We are able to liberate ourselves from the anxiety that comes from trying to predict or control every event when we acknowledge the fact that this uncertainty exists. By allowing us to concentrate on our thoughts and behaviors, this acceptance helps to improve the connection between our inner world and the experiences we have. It is possible for us to have more resources to cultivate virtue, practice mindfulness, and respond to adversities with reason if we stop wasting energy on things that cannot be changed. As a result of this shift in focus, we are able to live our lives in a more genuine and purposeful manner, rather than being led by the demands or worries that come from the outside world. Identifying what you can and cannot control in a given situation is an important step in the process of cultivating acceptance. This step helps you focus your energy more efficiently. Allowing yourself to let go of things that you are unable to alter is a skill that can be practiced through activities such as meditation, journaling, or even just noting the thought and redirecting your attention. You can become more grounded in reality and less preoccupied with the past or the future by practicing mindfulness, which can help you focus on the present moment. The final step in accepting difficult circumstances and discovering significance within them is to reframe them as chances for personal development. When we continually engage in the practice of acceptance, we cultivate greater inner serenity and resilience. As a result, we become less reactive to the events that occur in the outside world and more capable of managing the challenges that life presents with dignity. Stoicism is based on the principle that we should direct our attention toward our inner world, which is within our control, and accept with peace what we are unable to control. This is a vital aspect of becoming what we believe. Number 7. Continuous self-improvement. Stoicism is not a goal, but rather an ongoing path of self-discovery, growth, and refinement. This journey requires constant self-reflection, learning, and consistent practice. Stoicism is not a destination. This is something that Marcus Aurelius exhibited by using his meditations as a tool for self-improvement. He would continuously remind himself of Stoic ideas and strive to live a more virtuous life. For us to become what we think we are, this dedication to ongoing growth is very necessary. By continually working on ourselves, we are able to refine our thinking, improve our character, and progressively come closer to our ideal selves. We are not aiming for an impossible level of perfection, but rather we are seeking for continuous progress. This continuing process of self-improvement involves a number of important behaviors. Examining your thoughts, behaviors, and motivations on a regular basis is an important component of self-reflection. You should ask yourself if your behavior is consistent with Stoic ideas, notably the 4 cardinal virtues. Through the use of writing, meditation, or quiet reflection, you can identify areas in which you could improve and build plans for positive change. Studying and learning entails immersing oneself in the writings of Stoic thinkers and supplementing this with other forms of learning in order to broaden one's understanding of human nature and the greater universe. The act of putting into practice on a daily basis the concepts that you have learned, exercising mindfulness, reacting to adversities with reason, and actively cultivating virtue are all examples of consistent practice. For the purpose of internalizing these ideas, consistent practice is completely necessary. By soliciting input from reliable sources, you can gain vital insights into blind spots and pinpoint areas for improvement that you might overlook if you were to do it on your own. The act of viewing setbacks not as hurdles, but as possibilities for growth and learning, asking what lessons may be learnt and how the experience can build resilience, is what is meant by the phrase, embracing challenges as opportunities. We establish a positive feedback loop when we actively pursue wisdom throughout our entire lives and make it a habit to work on ourselves on a consistent basis. The reinforcement of favorable thought patterns by improved actions leads to additional virtuous actions being taken. We are not able to arrive at a fixed level of perfection, but rather we are able to embrace the road of continual progress and become a better version of ourselves each day. This cycle of continuous improvement brings us closer to our ideal selves. A continuing process of building our character via conscious effort and intentional practice is at the heart of what it is to become what we imagine ourselves to be. It was clear to the Stoics that our thoughts have a significant influence on our life. In order to harness the power of our minds to shape our reality and live lives that are more fulfilling, we must first embrace the dichotomy of control, then practice negative visualization, then cultivate inner resilience, then concentrate on virtue, then practice mindfulness, then accept what we cannot change, and finally make a commitment to continuous self-improvement. A quote attributed to Marcus Aurelius states that, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." We may take charge of our life and become what we think by learning to master our ideas and thereby becoming what we think, one thought at a time.